Well, ever since 7th October, terror attacks in southern Israel, which killed more than 1,400 people, Israel's entire war against Hamas in Gaza is only continuing. The local Ministry of Health in Gaza says that more than 30,000 people have been killed already. But what is the end game here for Israel? And what about the rest of the hostages that are still under the control of Hamas in Gaza? Joining us is the Ambassador of Israel, Naor Gilon. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us. But let me begin by asking you about the present situation. There are some hostages that are still there. Some negotiations have happened and many of them could be rescued. Unfortunately, many have died as well. But some continue to be there in different locations. What is their status right now? And even as this entire conflict is about to enter its 6 months, what are we looking in the next few weeks and months at? Is Israel only going to continue this kind of a war against Hamas in Gaza?
So unfortunately, when it comes to the hostages, we have no information about them. The information that we gather is not supplied according to Geneva Conventions because we don't have a normal partner on the other side. We have a jihadist organization. So we don't have a lot of information. We know that we have more than 130 hostages kept there, abductees. We don't know the situation. We established that about 30 are already dead, were kidnapped, dead most of them, some died after that. And we are doing the utmost effort to bring them back. And again, also on the military side, there are two objectives. One is physically to get to them and release as many as possible, but it's not easy because they are hidden in houses, underground, in tunnels. And also, through military, put pressure on Hamas to explain that without freeing them, nothing good is going to happen. That's also a problem because from Hamas' point of view, they are the human shield. So he has two human shields. He has his own Palestinians as human shield when they are underground and people live above them. And they have the Israelis, not only Israelis, abductees from Israel because they're also foreigners in the group. When it comes to the game forward, where are we going? As we said on the outset, after the attack, the vicious attack of October 7, we said that we have two main aims. One of them is to release the abductees, and the other one is to make sure that Hamas cannot repeat its atrocities, so dismantle Hamas and its leadership of Gaza, because after Israel left in 2005, Hamas took over from the Palestinian Authority in 2007, and created a failed state that over the years attacked Israel again and again. Now, October 7 was a different thing. It was not a small attack. It was an ISIS cruel, beastly kind of attack, and we understood that we don't have any more a pragmatic organization, pragmatic terror organization next to us, Hamas, but from October 7 we have ISIS ideology next to us, and the only way to fight them is eradicate them. So we will continue the war because we have no alternative until we get to the leadership of Hamas and we dismantle more of their capabilities. So far, to our understanding and estimations, we already destroyed more than a third, about 10,000 people of the Hamas terrorists. At least 10,000 were wounded of the terrorists, and about 1/3 is still there, but we dismantle most of the military structure of the organization. So it will take another 2-3 months, I guess, and once we do the rest of the job and we find the leadership one way or another, I think we will look for the diplomatic, political solution of someone governing the people's life. We have no wish whatsoever to govern their lives. Well, unfortunately, probably we will have to maintain the security because I don't see anyone willing to come in to this mess that there is in Gaza. And long term, Israel doesn't want to be there in Gaza. Once we establish a new reality, hopefully for the benefit of all, the Gazans first and foremost, but also for the Israelis, then Israel will have nothing to look for in Gaza.
You spoke about the civilians in Gaza. You spoke about human lives as well and how the future will look like. But the question also is, how much of Gaza have you taken already and how much of it is left? How many fighters of the Hamas in Gaza do you think are still out there, and what does the future look like at that? Because you've received a lot of warnings from human rights groups that care about the human lives in Palestine, particularly in Gaza. And on the other hand, we've also heard from a lot of Western countries who support Israel. For instance, from Canada, from New Zealand and Australia as well, putting out a joint statement and saying that this aggression in Rafah and neighboring areas should be stopped immediately on humanitarian grounds. How do you see this realignment, rebalancing by some of the countries who support you?
So Rafah is the main challenge that is left to your question. I'm not speaking in parts, but where they are now and they have a strong infrastructure of tunnels and still some military infrastructure is Rafah, because IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, did not go into Rafah like it went to Khan Yunis and northern Gaza. That's the next target. We are looking how to do it in a most humanitarian way as we did before, by giving pre-notice to the population, giving them alternatives where to be, tents, places, and stuff like that. This is the main idea where we are. When it comes to international forces, I think that, you know, it's very uncomfortable. First of all, the countries that you mentioned, of course, all of them supported Israel immediately after October 7, and also when Israel started the war. This is a very hard war. I think that very few militaries in the world had, if at all, had this situation, that it's a very, very small place with more than 2 million people in the most dense place in the world, with under-tunnel warfare, underground and above the ground warfare, when they have hostages, human shields, Israeli hostages. So you cannot now blow up from the air the tunnels by airplanes or find the shaft of a tunnel and blow the whole tunnel through it, because you might kill Israeli hostages. So every tunnel, 500 kilometers, you have to open by people, by equipment, electronics, whatever you do, drones. We developed different ways, robotics, in order to go in. But then there are doors that you have to, they are booby-trapped. So it's a very complicated warfare. We are not doing carpet bombing. We are fighting from house to house. We are losing every day, unfortunately, soldiers. If we would do far away, distinct, saying we don't care about civilian population, they will have much more deaths, and we will have much less dead soldiers. So this is the reality of today. Now, when it comes to international community, I'm speechless in some ways, because at the end of the day, people don't understand. We are fighting the war, a bigger war than the war of Israel. We will survive that war, okay? We will survive that situation, but the world doesn't understand that these jihadists, these ISIS type of ideologies, Islamic State type of ideologies, when the international coalition led by the US fought them, it did not finish the ideology. It just killed some people and dispersed the others. Many went back to their homes. Also in the neighborhood in South Asia, you would see in Bangladesh, in Maldives, even in India, people who were in the Islamic State fighting in Syria, Iraq, and that region, coming back home. The ideologies, probably in most of them, is still deep there. And if you give them a hope and a feeling that the world, that the West is weak, that the strongest power in the region is losing to a 30,000 strong terror organization or anything like that, it can be dangerous for all of us. It can be dangerous for our neighbors in the Gulf, because these are the same enemies of theirs. These are the people who want to have these rulers go away. And I think it's a bigger war, and people don't understand it. I understand that there is pressure. War is not beautiful. War is not nice. People die in wars. That's the nature of wars. And it's sometimes very hard when you have ignorant, ultra-liberal crowds that for them, killing or wars or using of power is not legitimate in under any circumstances. So you have to stand in front of them and be a leader and show leadership, as we had heard earlier, Tony Abbott, the former Prime Minister of Australia, who showed what leadership is. When you understand that you have to use power, you don't want that, but you have to do it to the maximum level of creating deterrence, because if you don't create the deterrence, if you don't dismantle, the terror will come back to hit you faster than you think. So, you know, there is fear, and I understand in some countries in the West where they have immigrants especially, or left-wing elements who are demonstrating outside, but leadership is needed here, because this is a bigger battle of the world. And if we don't stand against it, it will come back to bite us. So we have to be strong, united, and if we are like that, it's not that the fundamentalistic Islamic elements will go away or disappear. No, but they will be weaker and they will be more deterred. So we will buy ourselves longer periods of quiet. It's not for eternity, because the ideology is there, thriving and alive always.
Fair enough. But India has been a close strategic partner of Israel. India has condemned terrorism. India has been a victim, one of the biggest victims of terrorism over the last 3 decades. But there's been India's position of non-alignment. India on Israel-Palestine has taken a very balanced view. While it's a strategic partner of Israel, defense and technological relations, perhaps a lot more secret than in public. At the same time, India has also supported Palestine, the people of Palestine, humanitarian aid, a lot of efforts to bring in a lot of education, computers, etc. there as well. How do you see this kind of a balancing, particularly at the stage of UN as well?
I see India on the side of Israel. I don't see any other way, and I'll explain you why. Because I think that Prime Minister Modi, in the afternoon of October 7, after the terrible attack occurred, and we didn't understand even the magnitude of what happened, the atrocities and everything. This came into light days later. He came out very strongly on Twitter, condemning the terror attack and siding with Israel. This was very important because it set the tone for other politicians and also for the public. I think I have served a few countries around the world, quite a few. It's the 3rd time I'm an ambassador. Never before did I see such popular support towards Israel. And I'll explain you how I see the Indian position and why it's in alliance at the end of the day with the Israeli position. Because counterterrorism, we all agree. Okay, we put that aside. The other thing is humanitarian, we all agree. We are supporting the humanitarian effort because we don't have a fight with the Palestinian people. We, on the contrary, they are held hostage by Hamas as human shields for years. It's not only now, also when they shot rockets before. Now we depleted their rocket capability and hit them, so they have very few. But they are using the human shields always. That was the tactic from day one. We don't want to harm the people. On the contrary, we want the people to be better. We don't want pressures on Israel, but we also, from the human point of view, how we look at the region. So we have no quarrel, not with the Palestinian Authority, not with the Palestinian people. We have with this ISIS, Hamas terror organization. This is the only quarrel we have. So when it comes to humanitarian, the more the merrier. We support it and we want India to do that and we encourage India to do it. When it comes to a political solution, we have to sit down. We all understand that at the end of the day, military solutions are not solutions. They are tools and means in order to help regain a diplomatic or political channel. That's the whole idea here. When we dismantle Hamas, we clear the way for other more moderate forces to come from the Palestinian Authority, from the world, from the region, to come and take over and create a better situation for the population and for the security of Israel. That's what we are trying to do here. Whether it will be the two-state solution, I don't know. We will see. If you look at it from the point of view of the Israeli public today, what we learned is that in 2005, we left Gaza totally dismantled, about 20 communities, 10,000 Jews taken back to Israel. It was not easy emotionally and politically in Israel. But what came after that? Hamas kicked out the Palestinian Authority, won the elections in 2006, 2007, they took over by force, and since then they created a failed state that all along this period was threatening Israel. So when you say create two-state solution, you have to make sure that the other state is not a failed state that harming you, but rather a stable state that is supporting the peace and thriving by itself and together and things. I think this will be, over time, we'll see how it develops. I don't know. But we all agree that there has to be, at the end of the day, a political diplomatic solution. Be it two states, be it another solution, depends on the circumstances, on the partner, on the conditions. But it's for the, I think, longer term future. I think everyone understands that also.
Ambassador Gilon, such a pleasure always. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.